birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
And with that great big happy birthday, everybody in Logan County, all the listeners out there in Viewpoint, the both of them, join with Angie Stolzenberg and Mr. Jim Ash, Mr. Jeff Maxwell, and the old fellow here, Bill Gossett, and wishing the real nuts and bolts of the Viewpoint program, our co-host, Judith K. Busby, who is now a year older than she was a year ago.
Yeah, that's true. At least a year older.
And they say, I was told this earlier by my sainted mother, never ask a lady her age. So is it true that you're more than 77?
Yes, I am. Today I'm 78. I have no idea what time of day I was born, but obviously I was.
I remembered your wishes. I didn't ask her age. If you recall. So it is a big deal. 78 and going really strong. A couple of bad wings, can't throw a baseball anymore, but she's still all of her physical infirmities have not touched that cranial matter one bit. She's still as sharp
well,
as
I don't know.
and a delightful neighbor. So happy birthday to you, Judith.
Well, bless your heart. Bless your very heart.
All right. Now, usually, Angie will remember, we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two. Today would be appropriate. Logan County Fair opens up here this weekend. There are a lot of volunteers, unpaid, dedicated folks who work behind the scenes long before the fair opens, and then during the fair. They're out there en masse to help all the young people out there who are exhibitors and farm folks and friends from the showing the cattle and all the. Well, let's see. Besides the cattle, we have pastries and photography, all those little things.
And vegetables.
And vegetables, right. So we got a lot of volunteers, and we appreciate that very much.
You know, I worked out there for a few years.
Under the two Wilburs.
Under the two Wilburs. Wilbur Colburn and Wilbur Lehman. And Paul Cochran.
And boy, they kept that place going, too.
Oh, my word. Did
Yes,
they
did.
ever. They were really a pair to draw to. They were just opposite kinds of people, and they both did their side of it perfectly, and it was a good time. It really was. And I didn't know anything about farm animals because I grew up on Victory Memorial Drive, and we didn't have a lot of farm animals on the drive. But somebody came in to register some Simmental cattle, and I said, yes, Simmental and Simmons Short.
All right. Also, in conjunction with our announcement about the fair, and we do thank all those folks that's good. They couldn't. Mike Mosky and his group. Couldn't run that fair without all the other volunteers.
And bless Mike, he's a good man.
Oh yeah, you bet. I told him I wanted to have an auction. I'd like to have it the week of the fair.
When he's got spare time.
Yeah, he's got plenty of time. Okay, of a serious matter. Joe Shaler, the veteran of all veterans here for us in Logan County, has done and it continues to do a great job on behalf of his fellow veterans. Joe's a non-veteran, and boy, you have to take your hat off there. He asked me to announce that the veterans will have a group photo, this Sunday at 7:30. The date is July 30th, this Sunday, at 1:15 in front of the grandstand. And Joe would kind of like to have he'd really like to have a good show, a good turnout of veterans. And I'll try to sober up and be there myself. So
that'd be a big worry. My goodness.
So 1:15 this Sunday at in front of the fairgrounds. All veterans. We'd like to tell even the old codgers like myself. Let's see how many. By the way, let's just see how many World War II veterans can show up for that. Mm-hmm. Angie, there's a great expression about World War II that was made by a comedian by the name of George Gobel, a very funny man. And he was asked on the Johnny Carson show, he was a pilot instructor in Oklahoma during the war. And he said two things about that, and he was asking about it, and George says, "Oh, yeah, that was in the Second War. You must have read about that. It was in all the papers." Another thing he said, they were kind of putting him on about being in Oklahoma, and he said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing, the Japanese never got to Kansas City." You had a query that your daughter asked us to make.
Yes, I have instructions that I am to ask if anybody is aware of the time and place of what's I understand to be a town meeting about this garbage question that the city has. It was supposed to be the 31st, right?
That's my understanding.
The meeting, this town meeting, and I don't know the where or when. I don't seem to be able to find that out. So if you know that, 648-5510. You tell me, and I'll tell the Boat Ones listeners.
Yeah, we'd like to have that information. This is something that affects each and every one of us, and I didn't realize it was going to be a problem. I've been kind of had my head in the clouds or in the sand, whichever, and I've just been very content with having the weekly service and then going down to Latham Park there at those nice dumpsters that they furnish us for plastics and paper, and I think that's a wonderful system. So let's go. Give us the dates on that again.
It's supposed to be the 31st, but that was what I understood going into this. But the where and the what time, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, before we formally introduce our guest, she wants to make an announcement about Senior Day at the Oasis.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Well,
very important.
Yes, they're having a health fair out there today. I just wanted everybody to know in case they had some time to head out. A senior health fair from, I believe it's 9 to noon. I don't actually have the information right in front of me, but
they have some snacks there.
There's going to be door prizes, refreshments.
Yes.
I know that they're going to also have Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital will be there providing bone density screenings for free, and also flexibility and balance screenings for free. I know the Logan County Department of Public Health is going to be there. There's several folks who will be there giving free screenings and information for seniors' health. So it's a great time to stop by the Oasis today.
The Oasis has, excuse me, this is the important part of my job. This is why I got this.
Let the cat out of the studio.
I have to let the cat out. And then in again.
The cat did not want to be in here.
It's job security. The Oasis has so many services for so many people, does so much for the community. And a Friday evening is their big pork chop dinner, $8 a ticket.
Can't go wrong there.
And it's a big dinner with homemade dessert. And so you might want to bear that in mind when you go out there today for the health fair. Maybe you could pick yourself up a couple tickets.
Yeah, and keep up with what they have going on out there. They're just when I was out there yesterday, I noticed that they are starting an Alzheimer's support group, which is something we haven't had in Lincoln, and we haven't had as a local resource. So I was excited to see that. So you never know what they're up to out there. So keep your eyes open.
You know,
really.
All major fires are tragic by definition, you know. But if there were ever a fortuitous fire, it was the fire that they had in the old First National Bank building, because that enabled them to be where they are today. And they just, Oasis offers a whole bunch of things for a great number of people. And you don't have to be a, quote, senior citizen to enjoy what we offer out there. So it's really neat. Why don't we make a formal introduction of our guest?
Well,
somebody might have forgotten her name.
I didn't think about that, but I think it's a nice idea.
Well, yeah. It's a pro forma thing we must do.
Angie Stolzenberg is with Abraham Lincoln Memorial.
One of my favorite kids.
Yeah, she's a good...
We go way back.
Yes, we do.
Oh,
Angie was a former employee at Gossett's establishments.
She?
Yes, and very valuable.
Well, she's a sharp cookie.
Well, yes, her mom and dad did very well.
Yes, they did. Angie is with Abraham Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital. She wants to talk a little bit about the farmers market, and she is the director of the Community Health Collaborative. And we're also going to talk about this opioid epidemic, which I think is pretty scary. And I'm anxious to hear, Angie, what you have to say about it. So start with either or, and we'll matriculate into the next.
Well, let's talk about the farmers market. First, I should probably actually say that we have changed our name, Healthy Communities Partnership. So that might be what some people are used to hearing me talk about and hearing in the community. All the programs that we have, like the Safe Rides program and the drug recycling program, a variety of things have changed from Healthy Communities Partnership to the Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital Community Health Collaborative in an effort to take everything that the hospital is doing outside the walls of the hospital for the community, for community health, and put it under one moniker. So when you think about the farmers market, the wellness trail that we put in our campus, all that is kind of done through the Community Health Collaborative of ALMH.
See, Judy, what's happened is the PC police are at it again. We took a perfectly fine term like the farmer's market, and now we've gone esoteric with that, and it's no longer the farmer's market, but it's still the farmer's market.
It's still the farmer's market. But now, we used to, it wasn't necessarily a function of Healthy Communities Partnership. It was the hospital, funded by the hospital's foundation. But now we're just acknowledging that, this is a community health initiative of ALMH. So the farmers market has, we're in our second season right now. I think most folks know, even though I'm convinced there's more people who still haven't made their way out there, because we still hear people, I'm sorry, I've never been out there, but this is amazing when they finally
they're missing a lot,
get there.
Yes.
They are missing a lot.
Yes.
It's really, I kind of want to say it's the best farmers market in the state. It's pretty amazing because it's not just the farmers market. It also has so many activities available to it. It's a wellness destination. We're at the Logan County Fairgrounds, so we're inside. So rain or shine, we're open. And we started this season on Mother's Day weekend. We go through September 30th, and we have plans to do a fall festival type one-time market in October, and then another holiday market in November, before Thanksgiving, when everybody wants to get their fresh goodies for their Thanksgiving table. We did that last year as well. So we are going to be open during the fair. I want to make sure people know that, because last year we didn't. Last year we didn't have enough vendors who really were open to that, because we don't have the expo building the weekend of the fair, because of course the fairgrounds are using it for fair exhibitors. And so we have really been able to give our vendors their own space, their own tables that they just walk in and set up every week, as opposed to a traditional farmer's market where you're schlepping your tables and doing all that every single week. And so the weekend of the fair, they're going to have to schlep their tables and do like a usual farmer's market. And so, but we do have 7 vendors who are going to go ahead and be part of our farmer's market the weekend of the fair. So this Saturday and next Saturday we'll be out there. So we don't want anybody to think that we're closing up shop because of during the fair weekend next weekend.
Angie, help me out here and help our listeners, the both of them. If you enter on the west side when you come into the farmers market, kind of take a tour around. Just generally, we're going to miss some people by you're going to forget somebody, but it's amazing what's in that building out there.
Well,
so kind of give us an oversight, will you please?
Absolutely. I mean, when you first walk in, we have a little area now this year called our Market Sprouts area, and that's for little toddlers, where they can play with some of our farmers market themed toys and things, which are great for the younger families that want to, you could really be there we are open 8 to noon every Saturday. You could be there from 8 to noon. There's enough socializing going on, and there's enough activities to keep you busy. But we've got that. We have all of our amazing produce producer only. They make it all themselves, grow it all themselves vendor. So we've got Jaeger Farms from Carlock, Illinois, and they have everything from jams and some baked goods, but everybody knows them for their beautiful flowers that they have, and produce as well. We have a few new vendors this year. Witzig's Meats. We have Nuthatch Hill. I'm going to forget somebody.
Yeah, well, just
we have
generally.
we have Bean Sprouts that is on site, so you can buy a prepared breakfast meal and coffee. We have Ethan, Roasted by Ethan. You can get a prepared coffee or buy coffee to grind yourself there. We also have the Pop Club, which is the Power of Produce Club for 5 to 12-year-olds, and the kids come up and do an activity. This weekend, it's going to be the 2-bite challenge. So if they take 2 bites of an heirloom tomato and a purple green pepper, then they earn $2 in market tokens to spend on any produce they want in the farmers market. So that's been a huge hit. The kids love that. We also have cooking demonstrations. This Saturday, the cooking demonstration at 9 o'clock is going to be about preparing a quick breakfast.
Oh, that's a good one.
We always have a fitness class at 9 o'clock. This Saturday, the fitness class is going to be yours truly teaching a PIO class, which is strength training, yoga type combination of a class with a little cardio mixed in. So we're doing that at 9, but there's always fitness at 9. We're also having a community day. So this Saturday is an example where we're going to have the Humane Society of Logan County there. Along with the Master Gardeners, the University of Illinois Master Gardeners. So you never know what you're going to... We also have a blood drive coming up this Saturday. Sometimes we have blood drives on site at the market. We have free face painting this Saturday.
Kids love that.
We have giveaways. We often have giveaways. We kind of have a back-to-school theme this weekend, and so we have 2 book bags that we're giving away. Last weekend we gave away bicycles.
Oh, my.
Yeah, just there's always something going on. So if you hit between the cooking demonstrations, we've had Lincoln Community Theater out for the Pirates when the kids did the Pirates musical.
Yes.
They came out and performed. We had the folks from Oklahoma from Lincoln Community Theater come out and perform a couple weeks ago. So there's always something to keep you busy. If nothing else, grab a cup of coffee, sit down, before you buy all your produce and people watch. It's just a great Saturday morning.
You
That's
bet.
fun. You meet people that you don't normally, the bars that I go to. Seriously, you meet people that you haven't seen in a while out there, and you have a chance to visit, and so it's a nice little social experience. But I was been amazed at some of the folks that, for instance, you have somebody who brought their own meats that they processed on their farms and so forth and brought in for sale, and it's not expensive, and you're sure getting it right. It didn't come in some refrigerator car somewhere.
The average food that we buy from a store travels 1,500 miles, so you're getting the fresh, good stuff.
Yes.
And last week, a couple weeks ago actually, Altman Farms brought a baby goat that the kids had a great time petting, and they bring baby chicks sometimes from their farm. And
we were out there one of the times that we were there. They had chicks, and I was there with my daughter and her son. So we were 4 generations marching around out there, and Liam thought those chicks were the be-all, end-all.
Well,
he's 3.
cool.
I thought that was I was on the college campus.
I bet you did, you guy.
The other important thing I forgot to mention, though, is that the second Saturday of every month, we have the Know Your Numbers campaign. So we do on-site lipid profiles and blood sugar profiles, or blood sugar screenings.
We know our numbers here in WLCN too, and part of the thing is that if we don't have sponsors in numbers, we don't have that viewpoint. So go right ahead, Mr. Rice, with our sponsors. Right back live in the studios here, the WLCN program is Viewpoint. And by the way, Mrs. Busby propounded a question earlier, and that had to do with the hearing that we're going to have on how the city handles its trash removal program. 648-5510. Mrs. Busby would like to know, her daughters have asked a question directly, when is this hearing and where will it be? So somebody out there might know about that. and would let us know at 648-5510. Thank you very much. Now, right back here, Mrs. Busby, with our delightful guest, Angie Churchill Stolzenberg, whom I knew as Churchy.
Yep.
Oh, was that what her nickname was?
Yeah, Angie representing the Abraham Lincoln Memorial Hospital group, and all that they do here in the community. And boy, it's a big list. It's just not a hospital, so they're doing a world of good in many fields. So we're talking particularly now, have been talking about the farmers market out at Golden County Fairgrounds each Saturday morning. Judith Kay, let's go into another facet of what Angie would like to talk with us about this morning.
Yes, she has a visiting author coming, and we'll just address that for a little minute here so people can take advantage of that. And then we're going to move into this opioid situation.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to add that this Saturday we have a unique opportunity for some kids locally. Everything at the market's free except for whatever you want to buy to eat and make at home, but we have this free reading of an author, Ellie Wakeman. She has written a children's book named Bella Gets Rescued, and it's about a little kitty, and she's going to come and read the book at both 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. on Saturday. So she'll have her book available for sale. She'll also be giving a few things away, but we just want to invite everyone out there so they know. They have any little ones that like some story time. It's pretty neat to meet the author of a book, so she'll be out there on Saturday.
I think little kids like to be read to more than they like anything in the world, maybe other than popsicles.
And it's awfully important. It's an awfully important activity between an adult, whether it's a parent or not. It's not terribly important, although that is quite important. But you know, Grandpa or even Aunt Judy, reading to the kids. It's an important part of their life when that happens, and who knows what kind of rewards that will bring down the road. Pique somebody's interest to become a better student.
Yep.
Amen. Now let's move into this awful opioid news that we keep getting snatches of. It seems that that's a very active activity, if that's spoken properly.
No, it wasn't, but that's okay.
Here,
you go right ahead.
Here in Logan County. And it must be a darn hard thing to crack.
Yeah, you know, it's not just here.
Excuse me, please.
I think sometimes we get down on ourselves about, you know, locally we think we're maybe having it rougher than across the country on some things, but it's really the opioid epidemic is across the country, and there's a lot of different factors that go into it. What we have found oftentimes is that prescription pills have started to become more and more abused, and I think healthcare has taken some responsibility for that and recognizing. I mean, I don't think originally it was promoted as something that could be addictive, and we're going back years, but it's demanded by patients. I mean, you know, there is a need for it for pain control, but unfortunately it's very addictive, and then healthcare is kind of taking control of it now, where they're not letting people have it as much. And sometimes when you already have the addiction, then you're getting desperate, and next thing you know, you're going to heroin and other things that are cheaper and more accessible. It's getting harder and harder to get those prescription pills to abuse. More expensive, harder to get. And so, you know, sometimes it's as innocent as, you know, we don't want to think about people who are having an opioid addiction as folks who are in the back alleys. That's not the case anymore. You know, that's really not the case. Sometimes it's as, you know, you have a surgery, and there's lots of factors that go into it, but if the stars are unfortunately in alignment when you are, you know, recovering from wisdom teeth surgery or whatever the case may be, or you know, we have young athletes in our country that are getting injured in a sport and then getting addicted to the pain medication, moving beyond that as they're trying to heal from it, and next thing you know, they have an addiction. So it's hitting a lot of people, and it's hitting people across all of society. It's not something.
Well, what you're saying is essentially doesn't have to be what I would call nefarious conduct. Innocent victims who have been prescribed a certain opioid, maybe generic of some sort, but still have that part of it.
Yeah.
And those folks become addicted to that. Even seniors who have had some pain medicine.
Sure. And I think that there's physiological and psychological. There's all kinds of different, like I said, kind of stars that need to line up sometimes. I mean, just because some people don't have the same, the drugs don't have the same physical. You don't have the same reaction sometimes when you take it from person to person.
Sure.
But if you're in a situation where your body was kind of ripe for it, and then you had that opportunity, or you just never know when it can strike. So I guess if anything, I want people to understand that it can happen to anyone, and it could be anyone who's dealing with it right now. Who they could be, whether it's Vicodin they're abusing. If you're taking prescription drugs that weren't prescribed to you, then there are a lot of potential issues out there, and it could be anybody.
That happened to me long ago. I was prescribed Vicodin for something, and boy, I didn't tolerate that at all, and I wasn't very long getting off of that. It just scared the daylights out of me. I mean, I was really.
But some people have a different, and I had it after I had a cesarean. I had hydrocodone, Vicodin, and I never had any type of positive reaction from it either. It did the job for me, but I didn't have anything. Luckily, thank goodness, I didn't have any kind of like euphoria from it, or
Well, the medical community is so on to the prescribing end of it that I'm sure it would be very difficult. You go to your same doctor, and if you had been given something like this for whatever, for a surgery, they wouldn't just continue to write you a prescription because you said you still had a twinge or something.
And people expect it, and maybe they don't even know sometimes that they shouldn't feel like they need it. Or
You
why they
slide
feel like
into
they
it.
need it.
You come back into it.
And doctors, because they're starting to kind of rain down on it, they're taking a lot of slack from a lot of patients when they're trying to do the right thing by their patients and get this stuff out of the stream. So it's a very difficult thing.
This is a problem that's not a respecter of race, creed, color, age, anything in the world, is it?
Exactly. And it's so, what's so scary about it is that when you get to the point where you're getting you're searching for heroin and things on the street, and what they're using to create those drugs are even more and more dangerous. And sometimes it's one time is all it takes, and it can be fatal. That's where it's really scary. It's nothing to mess with.
No.
Yeah.
And we've got law enforcement, etc., going around with these kits in their car in case they have to bring somebody back from the edge of death.
Yeah. So naloxone is the name of the drug, or Narcan is kind of the brand name that everybody's used to hearing, the Narcan kits. And that is something that you can give to somebody who's not overdosing on an opioid, and it won't hurt them. But if they are overdosing on that, it does have the ability to reverse the overdose. And sometimes it's taking, because of, like I said, the street drugs, the heroin is being cut with so many different things now that it's becoming stronger and stronger. Sometimes it's taking more than one shot of that naloxone to even do an overdose. The average amount of doses you have to give to somebody who's overdosing to counteract what they've taken is starting to go up, which is just...
But how would you ever know how much would be enough or how much would be too... Well, I guess
there
there's
can't
no
be too much.
Yeah.
Which is the good thing.
Yes.
There's no too much. But there's a whole continuum of the problem that you need to look at, because then you have somebody who, if they overdose and they are brought back with the naloxone or the Narcan, where do they go from there? That's the big question. So now you're dealing with somebody who has an addiction, and do we have the right systems in place to get them what they need. Do they have access to the resources they need for treatment? And what we've done with the Community Health Collaborative, and we started this in February of 2016, we really brought everybody we could think of that would be interested together in Logan County to talk about the problem and figure out what in the world we're going to do about it, because it's so complicated. So what we did, because stealing is, if something works, that's what you're supposed to do, is we copied a kind of a system from Europe, and it was called the 4-pillar approach. And you look at the whole continuum. You start with prevention, trying to get kids and people, prevent them from getting in that situation in the first place. You look at harm reduction, which is trying to reduce harm to both the users who are going through an addiction, and also to the families who are doing it, and sometimes their kids, not just the parents trying to, but these people who are having kids while they're addicted, so harm reduction. Or you have users who are using needles, and because they're using needles and they can't afford new needles because this is not, now they're getting HIV or hepatitis,
Besides.
so that's more harm that's being caused, So then the third pillar is enforcement, trying to work with our law enforcement to support what their efforts are. And the fourth is treatment. And so we're trying our best to use the resources that we have and leverage them to address each of those 4 pillars.
That's an interesting thing. Go ahead, Judith K. You had a comment you wanted to make.
Well, I kind of tend to jump way ahead of where we are. And what is it going to do to us societally? If we have a growing population that's unable to function to the best of their ability.
Well, this is such an insidious thing. You think of drugs and you think of drug culture, and you conjure up kids out there in the alley or somewhere dealing drugs and all that. But the fact of the matter is that next door we have lovable Aunt Mary, who's a delightful, solid citizen, but who's an addiction because of a prescription that she's received from a medical person, and suddenly, innocently, she's become an addict. And so that's really a real.
Well, and the fact that it's out there and it's so readily available and cheap. And, on the other side of it, if it doesn't start with a prescription, although a lot of times it does, but if it doesn't, the one time, if somebody does a risky behavior and tries it, and it's the last time they ever do anything. I mean, that's the saddest part of all, because, what a waste there.
Well, and you've mentioned more than once that people individually react to about everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have different pressure. People are going through different things in their lives at all times, and you just don't know what kind of recipe is going to hit at the wrong time.
Yes.
To make them open to that. We showed a documentary back in April 1st, I believe it was, called Chasing the Dragon, and it's something that anybody can watch. It's online. It's on YouTube. If you Google Chasing the Dragon, the former FBI director and the Drug Enforcement Agency director put this together, and it walks you through quite a few stories of people and how they got addicted and what their situation is. But they call it Chasing the Dragon, and this is something I didn't know until we started kind of researching this and getting into it, is that the first time that you do an opioid, it gives you such a, I guess high is the best word to use, but it gives you such a reaction, such a high, that you are chasing that. You want to have that again. But each time that you do the drug, you're never going to get that again, so you keep taking more and more of it to try to get that again.
It's a whirlpool.
But you never will. And so you're taking more and more and more and more and more, and that's when you get to the point where you overdose, And we just have, it's such a complicated thing. If somebody gets arrested because they were found with the drug, and maybe they're in jail for enough of a period of time where they get detoxed because they have to, because they're in the system, they go back out into the world, they go back and try, they have a substance abuse disorder, so they're going to go out and they're going to try it again because, they can't help themselves. And then they find it, they take the same amount they were taking when they first went,
And that's
into
a little
jail,
stout.
and now it's way too much, and
Yeah.
that's when people overdose a lot, because now their body had nothing in it, and you think you can handle that much because that's what you were handling before, and now you have a lot of fatalities and overdose there.
How often does a person who has gone through a program and aren't using anything like that anymore return to it? What's the
Oh, I think
recidivism rate?
I think it's pretty. Unfortunately, I think it's pretty high. I think recovery is very possible, and there's a lot of hope out there. But when you look at the percentages of recovery, it's not easy. It's not 90% come out and never have that kind of ghost talking to them, you know. So it's but I don't want to say that there's no, you know, there's definitely hope out there. September is Recovery Month. To promote and celebrate recovery. There's actually going to be a recovery walk, and I don't have the details with me right now, but I think in downtown Lincoln, and they're going to do our recovery community is going to sponsor that to celebrate that and give people hope that if you're dealing with this, you know, there are people out there who are willing to help you and help you get through it, but you have to have the right support system, and you can't go back to the same friends you were hanging out with before. That kind of,
There's a problem right there.
Right there.
You know, that
It's-
helped you get into this mess or keep you in this mess because
Yes.
they were dealing with it. And it's, you know, it's no one's a bad person in this. It's an addiction. It's a, you know, it's just if you want to change your life, then you've got to make some serious changes. It's not just about the drug. It's who you're hanging around with. Sometimes where you're living. You know.
Is the Misery Loves Company saying pretty rampant in that population?
Well, I think that everybody's dealing with anything across any in the human condition. We all are like that, but we all also, for that same reason, that's why support is so critical. If you're around people who are in the same mindset as you for success, then you're also going to be successful. I mean, it's the same. We're humans, and we like to be around. We need, I should say, to be around people who are going to be positive and support us and things that are good for us.
Well, addiction in and of itself is, no matter whether it's booze or drugs or, it's an insidious disease. I knew a good friend of mine, a very well known professional man here in town many years back, and he was drunk. It was, you know, for want of a better word, it was, you wouldn't know it day to day. But he was all day long.
Yeah. Well, you know,
And
in all
he reached
those
that
things,
point at one point in time where you wouldn't know it, and then all of a sudden, lights out.
yeah.
Terrible thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And so it's I think it's, every drug has its own maybe personality a little bit, but the reality is that's all very similar, you know, when you're trying to make a change like that. And so we're trying to, like I said, address each of these 4 pillars. On the prevention side, what I think we know is that if we can prevent people from getting in that situation to begin with, that's the best thing for everybody.
What's the best prevention other
Well-
than hanging around with people who don't do that?
When we look at prevention, we look at people teaching kids not to smoke and the alcohol abuse. We start there, because very rarely do you find somebody who just picked up heroin and tried it. You usually are somebody who went from smoking cigarettes to smoking weed to, you know, you kind of progress to that if you're looking at the substance abuse kind of continuum. So what we want to do is get to the kids and make sure they know the importance of their choices. DARE is a program that is in the schools that has expanded, which is really great, teaching the kids about choice, the importance of the choices that they make. And then when they get older, it's about drug awareness and what that can do to you, and how to make smart choices when it comes to that.
Yeah, well, with all respect, and I mean that very sincere, with all respect to Nancy Reagan, her very simplistic approach of just say no, which is a great start, but that doesn't begin to look underneath the cover of the bed sheets at all, because it's so deeply spread, and people, once they reach that point where they become an addict,
Yeah.
It's a tough battle from that
Well,
point
and you know,
on.
if you're a child growing up with an addict,
Yes.
if you're a you know, if you're somebody who's dealing with any kind of mental health issue, which we're trying to get the stigma away from that, you know, if you're dealing with any kind of behavioral health issue, with whatever you're dealing with your family and your personal life, and you know, what you grew up with, or any.
I don't know why we can't realize that the way we live our life, it affects not only us. It's you're not number one, you know.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of people that are affected by your choices. And if everyone could see an infant born to a drug addicted or alcohol addicted mother and see the horror that that brand new baby, through no fault of its own, goes through just to survive those days, I think maybe they'd think a little differently
Yeah.
about who counts.
Angie, we appreciate your coming up with us again. It's always a joy to have you here in the studio with us. We know it's going to be an easy 45 minutes because you're so knowledgeable about the subject matters that you wanted to talk about. I think she could talk about primary reading and
Yeah.
make a good 45 minutes.
I don't know about that, and I am by no means a heroin opioid expert, but you know, trying to learn, and more importantly, trying to work with the partners in the community who do know what they're talking about.
Well, and we've got to understand better what we are talking about here, because this is a real problem for a number of people.
Well, we appreciate very much your coming. Mr. Ash, I found it difficult to come up with a closing quote, but we had a birthday here, and a lady next to me, and we have another lady across from us who represents exactly what Judith represents in her different age groups. Mr. Voltaire said something about this. That was Sam Voltaire. You might remember Sam.
Yes. He was a neighbor too.
He was a Greek man. God gave us the gift of life. And this represents what we have in the studio, James. It is up to us to give our lives the gift of living well. And Angie Stolzenberg and Judith Busby, you certainly exemplify that. Thank you very much for Viewpoint.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.